Hello, hello. Welcome back once again to the Pivot with Power podcast with your host, Lance T. Walker, and today's extra special guest, once again, the inimitable Mischelle Valentine Logan. Hello, Mischelle. Good to see you again.
Hi, Lance. Great to see you.
All right. We have a special topic to discuss today
Mm.
because you fooled around and let the inner author jump out of you. And you've recently written an article in your series on showing up. As I recall, the specific article is showing up in uncertain times
Mm.
requires a different kind of strength. Now, you know that's a subject we got to talk about.
Yes, it is. And this is that time.
These are very uncertain times. So this is a very good time to be able to show up. So,
Yes.
so first of all, tell us about. Well, wait a minute. Let's introduce you to the folks who may not know you yet. Mischelle is one of our esteemed mentors in the Grown Folks Computer Club, and kind of introduce yourself to the crowd and let them know what you bring and who you are and what we're all about.
I am, again, Michelle Logan. I am a confidence coach, a luxury retail manager trainer. I also am a makeup artist, esthetician, beauty aficionado. I specialize in makeup and skin for those over 40, not just Black women, but all the people who have skin. So that's what I do. And that's my first love. But my passion is making sure that everyone is confident in the skin that they have. And so that's where the confidence coaching was born.
Outstanding. So, confidence coaching for those of us who have skin. Well, that kind of covers most of us.
And covered.
Um, all right. Okay. So, talk specifically to the students and members of the Grown Folks Computer Club. Help us out with what you bring to with what your specific talents and skills are that you bring to that crew.
Well, as most Black women, I am multi-talented, multifaceted, and multi
Mhm.
all the things. So what I bring to the table is the confidence of the aesthetic. So when you walk in the room, the first thing people see is the visual representation of yourself. So if you
Uh-huh.
are walking in the room and you do not feel confident, that is
Hmm.
visible. That's an energy that is felt but also seen. And then there's also
Hmm.
a niche and a thing that we talked about of how we show up in the room, what we're wearing, what our makeup is saying, what our skincare routine is saying, hygiene, all that kind of stuff. That all is encompassing of confidence, and it was wrapped up into an image. So
Hmm.
the image is the avatar that people see before they get to know you as a person. And
Okay.
usually within 30 seconds, we decide whether we're going to trust somebody or not by how they look, even though that is an awful thing to do. But it is something that we have ingrained in our DNA to look for safety. And those things that are beautiful seem to be more safe.
Interesting.
Mm.
Very interesting. Okay. Yeah, I like the reference to judging a book by its cover.
Yeah.
Everybody says don't judge a book by its cover, and yet we all judge books by their cover all the time. So wow, I love that segue and how you did that. Trying to remember what I wanted to do with that statement. Oh yeah, it had something to do with Woody Allen talking about 80% of life is just showing up.
Yeah.
So when you talk about showing up, I like the angle that you took that it's not necessarily just about appeal, it's also about trustworthiness.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I think a lot of people don't really give enough weight to.
Yeah. When we show up in certain spaces, and it can be as simple as wearing a certain color. Certain
Okay.
colors have emotions that they emit, and depending on what you're wearing, you
Mm-hmm.
could actually pull from that color an emotion or a personality or persona from that color, as well as people perceiving you wearing that color. And so people think it's something very like minute and very simple, But
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to showing up in spaces, especially if you are public speaking or doing like some type of entertainment, there is a lot of thought in all aspects of how you show up, how you actually appear, the colors you wear, the makeup you wear, the fragrance you wear, and then what comes out of your mouth or what talent you have is like
Mm-hmm.
wrapped up in that bow. So
Okay.
well, I think people don't realize the importance of the aesthetic of showing up.
Okay. All right. Um, so let's talk about these uncertain times. You mentioned in the article things like expectations shifting,
Mm-hmm.
industries evolving overnight. We've certainly seen that, and the future feeling harder to read. So, in these times when showing up is even more critical than it normally would be, let's talk about that in terms of an economic and business environment that's shifting underneath our feet.
So let's be clear. We
Mm-hmm.
are in the most unprecedented time
Mm-hmm.
in ever creation.
Mm-hmm.
We, as citizens of the United States, there was a certain status quo
Mm-hmm.
that was normal, that was standard across the board.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And that status quo has gone to hell in a handbasket
Mm-hmm.
because the leaders wanted to shake things up. And let's be clear, people wanted to shake things up. They just didn't know what that was
Mm-hmm.
going to look like and how much shaking that was going to take. So
Okay.
now that the grass is no longer green on the other side, we're always on the other side, and the grass is pretty brown and stinky.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We now have to evolve and adapt to that brown and stinky grass. And what do I mean by that? I mean that when we look at the skills that we have,
Mm-hmm.
the brass tack skills of most government employees are things like multitasking, achieving results in a short amount of time, staying
Mm-hmm.
within budgets. But when you look at what their actual KSA or what their role is in their organization, they don't see those skills as transferable to other things. So
Right.
when we have to evolve,
Mm-hmm.
because Black women are the masters of reinvention. We reinvent ourselves from our hairdos and nails and all the things. So
Mm-hmm.
when we have to evolve into a new role, it's very scary because you
Okay.
don't think that you've got what it takes to evolve in that role, but you've been doing these jobs all along.
Mm-hmm.
You've
Mm-hmm.
used these tools that you've had all along while doing the things that you were doing before. So when that guy on Pennsylvania Avenue yanked all those jobs away from folks
Mm-hmm.
and they went out into the workforce 40 plus years old with a set skill set
Mm-hmm.
that they thought they only had in that one little box. What
Mm-hmm.
we do at the GFCC is teach you that those skills that you had in that box are much more than that. And we show
Mm-hmm.
you where you have those transferable skills that connect you to new things. And we have to evolve. One of the mistakes that we made as professionals, I can speak as a professional Black woman, one of the mistakes that a lot of my peers have made has been to excel and only drive the skill set that's in front of them and not to be able to be
Mm-hmm.
multifaceted and be able to have a broad range.
It feels
So
like mastery.
absolutely. And so
Mm-hmm.
there's that saying that people like to quote, it's better to be a master of one than a jack of all trades or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But
Right.
the entire statement is it's better it's better to be a master of let me get it right. It's better to be a master of one and a student of all because
Okay.
you at least will have a knowledge and be familiar with multiple things. So if you
Mm-hmm.
only master one thing and that's your wheelhouse and that's what you do and you don't know anything else, when that thing has no longer become the thing to do and it is now
Mm-hmm.
obsolete,
Mm-hmm.
you have no further skill set.
Mm-hmm.
So you think. But what we
Exactly.
know is just because you do this one thing, you build this one cog over and over and over again, there's so many different skills that go into building that one cog that can be
Mm-hmm.
transformed and be moved into something else with the least amount of effort on your part if you just take the moment to change your mindset and to look
Mm-hmm.
at all the other things that goes into building that one cog. So
Mm-hmm.
the article, the drive that I wanted to portray when I was inspired to
Mm-hmm.
write the article, because all of it is inspiration, and I think it was
Sure.
divinely inspired. The
Mm-hmm.
thing that I was going after was to show folks that even though we are in uncertain times and it can feel scary,
Mm-hmm.
we've been here before.
Mm-hmm.
We've done it before. And if you are of the melanated quality and you have grown up in a variety of different socioeconomic standards in your
Mm-hmm.
lifetime, you have seen in your lifetime what that evolution looks like and how we
Mm-hmm.
reinvent over and over and over again. And that
Mm-hmm.
is what makes us the target,
Mm-hmm.
because you pull the rug from under us and we'll just get a new rug.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point to bring out, because when you talk about the environment, especially in terms of, civil service workers who are now re-entering the private sector or entering it for the first time, I think there's a sense of competitiveness in the private sector that people who were civil service felt that they were immune from, that they had their job, they were set, and as long as they met metrics and performed, adequately, that they were pretty much safe from having to compete. So talk to us a little bit about how the aesthetic, how the presentation, how the confidence vibe affects that whole sense of competitiveness and that will to win, so to speak.
So I'm in the DMV.
Mm-hmm.
The DMV's largest employer is the federal government.
That's DC, Maryland,
DC,
and
Maryland, and
Virginia
Virginia.
for you
For
military types out there.
Yes, so I all of my friends and family, when we graduated from high school,
Mm-hmm.
we were all encouraged to take the civil servants exam, to
Ah,
go get us a good government job,
uh,
to go work for 40 years,
mm-hmm.
retire, and then live the life.
Exactly.
There was a shift that happened in the 90s
Uh-huh.
when my generation, I'm a kid, my children call me, I'm from the 1900s. So
Right.
when I was coming out of junior high school into high school, I
Mm-hmm.
went again. I went to an art school. I went to Duke School of the Arts, the greatest high school on the planet. Um,
Okay.
so
Of
when I was,
course.
yes, the fame of DC. When I was in high school,
Mm-hmm.
my peers and I were not looking at conventional jobs.
Right.
We're artists, so we were always
Mm-hmm.
looking to hustle, to grind, to do
Ah,
something different.
okay.
And
Mm-hmm.
that spawned in us, even those of us who went and got those good government jobs, the
Mm-hmm.
hustle.
Okay.
And so, where I look at my peers in my peer group that don't have that hustle,
Mm-hmm.
and they got into those good government jobs and settled into
Mm-hmm.
those roles became their identity.
Mm-hmm.
Their job function became their function,
Mm-hmm.
and they allowed the government to tell them and dictate who they were.
Okay.
Those of us who are more creative minded, who have side hustles and that drive,
Mm-hmm.
even though we might have been in that pigeonhole for a little bit, we always had that foot out the door that said, I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna dabble my foot into this entrepreneurial shit while
Mm-hmm.
I'm still driving this government job.
Right.
So what we're seeing now are those folks who are panicking, who did not have their
Mm-hmm.
foot in that entrepreneurial pool,
Mm-hmm.
who are now back out there looking for jobs because they're not quite of age to retire.
Right.
And they've done this work that they've done since high school. So they usually
Mm-hmm.
have come out of high school 18 years old, got a good government job, getting paid $30,000 a year, now earning over six figures, now in house debt, college debt for their kids, personal debt because they want to live up with the Joneses and do all these vacations and all these kinds of things. And so now their lifestyle has been taken from them. And that was also part of their identity. So now they don't know who they are. So what I was writing that article from the perspective of is trying to encourage people to see the beauty in the restart and to drive that change so that they can reinvent themselves again and know that they weren't alone in these uncertain times. You got now 800,000 colleagues who are on the job market with you, and you're competing for the same roles. And the private sector is absolutely taking advantage of this great talent and offering them substandard offers that should be illegal. And these folks are scared and they're taking these jobs that are way beneath them if they are offered a job. Because if they have a lot of education, companies know you get a job from a job. So if I hire you, I know you're not going to stay long. So I'm not going to hire you. So I'm going to use the excuse of you're overqualified. And so there's that conundrum of all of these different things, which is why it's important for us, once we get back, and some of us, once we get back into a role of being an employee, to split your attention from the job to your freedom. And so that's where we've lost some of that grit we had in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, because we were told we only could have a little bit. But there was always those rent parties. There was always somebody did hair at home. There was always somebody did nails. There was always somebody had a side hustle. Maybe they did fish fries, or maybe they sold crafts and jewelry at the flea market. Whatever that thing is, we got accustomed to and comfortable with one sole income that allowed the government to completely take the rug from under us and to make us feel substandard and less than.
Love it. Yeah, it's been really apparent to me. I mean, when I first decided to create the Grown Folks Computer Club, one of the driving forces was I was looking around me and I was seeing, when I say younger people, I mean people under age 45. That had always been in this post-civil rights environment and actually believed, because they were raised that way in school, that the world had changed and that wolves were no longer wolves and that people had grown and evolved. Of course, those of us born in the 60s, we knew better. So it's not a surprise to us at all. But, when I looked around, what I see is people in what they call middle age, midlife, mid-career, are literally stunned into paralysis because they don't know where all this came from. Where did all the hate come from? Where did all the anger come from? Where did all the resentment come from? And of course, it's always been there. Just, certain folks did a good job of hiding it, and they just simply gotten to the point now where they can't stand it anymore. They can't hide it. They just have to let it fly. They have to let it loose. And we see the results of that, the gush of negative emotions coming at us. But having accepted that as a reality, I like the way you phrased it in your article, that confidence looks different in challenging seasons. So I'd really like for you to expound on that a little bit, that, once we accept the reality as it is, how does that change how our confidence looks as we present to the world?
So, I had an article that was in Black Enterprise yesterday, and it triggered my soul. It was about Black women. It was highlighting how Black women are being affected by the current crises of joblessness and all of that. And one of the things that was an overarching content theory in the
Mm-hmm.
comment section
Okay.
was people saying that Black women were hard to get along with,
Mm-hmm.
that were difficult, and that we're angry. And then the Black men in the comments, some of them, were saying things like, well, now that you got all this education, where did it get you? Now you should be worried about taking care of your families and at home, which again is playing right into the propaganda of the Project 2025 thought process of taking women's independence away, turning it into a villainizing independence, and turning it into something that is destructive to the family. What we allowed to happen in the 70s, 80s, and 90s is a destruction of the Black family from the root.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to call a thing a thing. It was on
Mm-hmm.
purpose. The,
Absolutely.
the idea that family can be different now
Mm-hmm.
and that we're thriving with in difference. If
Mm-hmm.
we if they take that away from us, then they can get some of that control. And so what we allowed to happen was for folks to identify us, and we carried that. And a lot of the women that I know who worked in the government, they were difficult. They were angry. They were hard to
Mm-hmm.
get along with until you got to know them.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a defense mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
And what breaks my heart is to understand that a lot of these women are soft and they were not
Mm-hmm.
allowed to be soft because softness
Mm-hmm.
in professionalism is considered to be weak.
Weak. Absolutely.
And a man who is strong, who is assertive, who is
Mm-hmm.
direct, those are positive traits for a man, Black or white. But for a Black woman who is assertive, who is powerful, who is dominant, that is seen as a negative trait.
Mm-hmm.
We got to take some of that power back. But there's also an art of being feminine and still being able to get what you need to get done.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the art that we have to go back and get. And that's one of the things that I can help women to do is to put that sugar onto that spice so it can go down a little easier. Yeah, I shouldn't have to. No, I shouldn't have to sprinkle something soft on you so you can listen to what I'm saying because I am correct in what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But when it is more palatable, it is received better. And then we can work on how people see us and change that tonality and that reference to being negative and mean and all that kind of
Mm-hmm.
jazz. One of the things I have to do, and I think we talked about it last time, one of the things that I have to do in my work, regardless of where I am, is I have to
Mm-hmm.
smile a lot. And
Mm-hmm.
even though I might not feel like smiling, if
Mm-hmm.
I'm in a space in public, in order for
Uh-huh.
me to look open and
Mm-hmm.
receptive and welcoming, I have to smile. And a lot of times I feel like an idiot walking down the street smiling. But I do know that if I am having things on my mind, I'm running things through, I could even be going through a grocery list. I might have on my face that RBF and I might not look as approachable to people. And I don't ever want to look
Mm-hmm.
unapproachable unless.
Okay.
So
Right.
when I'm in a space in which I am working, if I am in sales and I am selling things, you do not want to be the unapproachable salesperson. You
Right.
want to be the friendly, the kind, and you
Right.
want to be relatable. That is the
Welcoming.
same thing that we do when we go into job interviews. That is the
Mm-hmm.
same thing we do when we go into performance reviews. That is the same thing we do when we interact with our colleagues. Is we, if we are more palatable, we are seen as more receptive, more positive, all those things.
Mm-hmm.
But what we also have to remember is the veil, the rose colored glasses have been ripped from us. The veil of niceness and niceties in the workplace is gone.
Mm-hmm.
People are empowered to truly show who they are and what they think. And that is what's happening in the world. People are just plainly saying, I don't want to hire a Black woman because they're all me. Or I don't want to hire a Black man because they're all thieves. and I don't want to hire this one or that one. And so now, as Black folks, if we are not careful, will feel like when I step out, I represent everybody, and that's not the case. You represent yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that we have to demand is to demand to be seen as individuals. I don't do what everybody does.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a whole different person, and I am a
Mm-hmm.
completely unique unicorn. So you
Mm-hmm.
will never meet another me. So if you don't take the advantage of meeting me and getting what I have to offer you, it's your loss. And that's the attitude that we have to take. If you don't want to hire me, no problem. That's your loss.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things we have to remember is when you are in a position of asking, you have lost a lot of the power already.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of asking, tell them what they're going to get. You're going to get a hard worker. You're going to get someone who's going to show up. You're going to get someone who is dedicated. You're going to get someone who will get the job done without excuses.
Mm-hmm.
And that is how you sell yourself.
Yeah, you
So,
take the bull by the horns.
absolutely.
You address it before it even comes up. I mean, I love what you're saying because you're dealing with the aspects of this trap that is constantly being woven around us like a spider's web. That first of all, I mean, I can remember great grandma telling me from the time I was a kid, you catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar.
Absolutely.
That was a simple way of phrasing it. Certain things such as saying please and thank you. I was taught before I got to first grade, please and thank you will carry you far. And I look around me now and I'm going, nobody's saying please or thank you anymore. What is going on? And they wonder why their social interactions feel so coarse and graded. I do want to kind of project into the now again, though, because of something that you said about expressing one's uniqueness. And that is this, because I, as you know, both of us, we talk to a lot of people every day. And so we get a lot of reactions and responses because of our openness that people are able to, come on out and say what they really think and feel, as opposed to what they might hide on a daily basis. And one of those is this notion that when you're in an environment of, as we've lived through in the last 40, 50 years, everybody's, taught to brag about I'm the first one or I'm the only one, on the job or in the school or at, this whole idea of carrying the weight of the entire race on our back. Because when they see us, whatever we do is deemed to be that's what Black people are like. So the idea of representing an entire race is not something that we've taken on. It's something that's been put on us. So now what I've heard a lot about is this notion that if we get past that and we're able to express ourselves as our uniqueness and our power and our abilities, then our own people tend to reject us because they think we're trying to separate ourselves from them. So, what's your viewpoint on that? How do you handle that?
We have been operating with a scarcity mindset for centuries.
Well, yeah, slavery is kind of the definition of that.
When they put us on those boats,
uh-huh.
That is when they separated us from our greatness.
Right.
And it's not an accident that
cool. No.
One, we were separated from our greatness, and now they're trying to erase the history of our greatness that we have dug up with our fingers.
Absolutely.
And so that's not an accident. They're feeding into the idea of scarcity, which means, definition is it's not enough for everybody in this survival of the fittest.
Right.
No other person has to deal with that. No other race has to deal with that other than us. There's only one Black job.
Right.
There's only one Black job. You might have 99 different white men, 99 different Asian men. There's only one Black person. You got the Black job.
Right.
So
One black role in the movie, what one black position in the political party.
one black role in a movie, usually he dies in the first 10 minutes.
Yep.
And no
And
one
he's always number two if he survives. Never number one. Always number
never
two.
number one. Very rarely do you make it to the end.
Mm-hmm.
So again, the scarcity mindset is not something that was by accident. It was definitely intended to
Mm-hmm.
create division between us, which makes
Mm-hmm.
us not trust each other. And
Mm-hmm.
again, that is inbred. I
Mm-hmm.
truly believe that emotion
Mm-hmm.
goes through DNA. And so
Oh, okay.
um, I want someone in the scientific realm to study that because that
Mm-hmm.
won't be me. I'm a painter, so I don't. But I really would like somebody to study the DNA of people who have been. I mean, we know it. Children are born scared that they're going to get left, and they've never been
Uh-huh.
left before. So I
Uh-huh.
know there's got to be something in that where the scarcity mindset, the
Mm-hmm.
distrust, and
Mm-hmm.
the lack of confidence is actually inbred in our DNA. And so we have to fight against and have to retrain our minds. But we
Mm-hmm.
also have to remember who and whose we are.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm a spiritual person. I know God didn't make junk. I know God didn't make a mistake with me. I know I'm still here and I'm here for a reason. And I
Mm-hmm.
have not fulfilled my purpose. That's why I have not been called home. So
Mm-hmm.
I know that each day that I'm here, I'm supposed to leave the day better than I found it each
Love
time.
it.
And if
Love it.
we all think like that,
Mm-hmm.
if we all reach back and help one person, even if the person we help does not actually accept the help or end up panning out the way it should,
Mm-hmm.
if we can do that without malice, without being hateful, without remembering that one bad interaction,
Mm-hmm.
we will change the trajectory of our people for our next generation. And we will
Mm-hmm.
model for our children and our grandchildren and our great grandchildren what a healthy relationship with people that look like you should be.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that in itself will take away some of that scarcity because I know that there's a table for everybody. And I know
Mm-hmm.
that if I am having clients, I know that I don't have to
Mm-hmm.
fight with you about clients because my clients are mine and yours are yours. And you're going to get exactly what you're supposed to have by
Mm-hmm.
divine right. No one can
Mm-hmm.
take from you what God has ordained for you.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's yours, it's yours. You just got to do the work to get it. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes that work is uncomfortable. And sometimes that work is internal. And that is your job to go into the mat carpet or to meditate or to go sit in the grass, whatever that is, to connect with source, whatever source is for you, so you
Mm-hmm.
can figure out what your next steps are. I think when
Mm-hmm.
we got away from our spirituality practices, when we got
Mm-hmm.
away from of being connected, when we were snatched from our homeland and
Mm-hmm.
separated from the ground that we were supposed to be on,
Mm-hmm.
that
And from each
fractured
other.
something. And we learned, and during COVID especially,
Mm-hmm.
we need community.
Mm-hmm.
Even if community is virtual, we
Mm-hmm.
still need community. We cannot thrive on our own. We're not designed to be alone. We are designed to be in community. You just got to
Mm-hmm.
find your community and find your people.
Mm-hmm. Outstanding. I just want to make sure that I, say this before I forget. I absolutely love that you brought up the connection between emotions and DNA
Mm.
because it absolutely is a fact. It absolutely is a science, and there's an awful lot of information on it going all the way back to the slave plantations in the mid 1800s, where this guy, I forget his name right now, but it'll come back to me. But I'm really looking forward to having a discussion with you about that specifically. But he was going around all these different plantations and teaching the slave owners how to use torture and terror to
Oh, Willie
infuse
Lynch.
fear. Yes, Willie Lynch. The whole purpose was to infuse fear into the DNA of the enslaved with the stated purpose of making us self-enslaving for the next 600 years.
And
So
that's what we did.
they could change the laws and we still go to the back door.
Here's a funny fact that you might not know.
Hmm.
There's a theory going around on the interwebs that the William Lynch theory was made
Mm-hmm.
up.
Mm-hmm. Well, if it was a representation of what was actually happening. It might not have been one guy, okay, but there was certainly,
Absolutely.
okay, gatherings and meetings where they discussed these sorts of things and shared them amongst each other. Just like I mean, Johnny Appleseed might not have been one guy. It might have been 50 guys out there throwing seeds all over the place. But the point is the same. It's
Absolutely.
what was done. Mm-hmm.
And what I find funny is when we have something great in our history, it proves something, and it starts to come to fruition or come to pass. The
Uh-huh.
powers that be then sprinkle that little bit of doubt in there. And we
Absolutely.
always lean onto the doubt instead of leaning
Mm-hmm.
into the message. The message is the same.
Exactly.
And across the board on slave ships, on plantations, on breeder plantations,
Mm-hmm.
there was a system of buck breaking
Exactly.
that happened. That's a fact. So you can call it what you want. And there's a reason
Exactly.
why when women were having babies on
Mm-hmm.
plantations,
Mm-hmm.
there was a reason why the women were telling the master, "Oh, he's dumb. He's stupid.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, you don't want him. He ain't no good, master. He ain't no
Mm-hmm.
good." And what did that child grow up to hear? I'm dumb. I'm
I'm
stupid.
dumb. Yep.
And the mother was trying to save her child
That's right.
because the
Mm-hmm.
finest and fittest were sold top
That's
dollar.
right. That's right. Down the river. And
And
and so
so now,
mm-hmm.
and now we are having the residual effects of our mothers and grandmothers telling us we ain't nothing
And
from way back in the day.
that and what you were speaking about earlier about I mean what you're talking about is how we wound up being a maternal led culture, okay, within a paternal patriarchy society, which automatically from a self-defense perspective is in a weakened position to begin with. But just like you were talking about earlier about this whole idea of resenting Black women for being in positions of power, that when you're entering an environment that is overwhelmingly of the masculine bend, and women are coming in as leaders of their families, leaders of their communities, leaders of their households, you have to adapt masculine methodology in order to be successful, and then to turn around and be looked
Great.
at as hard and disagreeable, and the very things, as you said, that where men are looked up to for having those qualities. Don't forget the other side of it. Black men who go into those environments with those types of qualities are gotten rid of. The
So
women are oppressed, the men are just eliminated.
let's be clear.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go back a little bit further. African societies
Mm-hmm.
tend to be matriarchal too.
That's right.
And there's a power in the balance between women and men. And
Mm-hmm.
in most African societies, until colonizers came in
Mm-hmm.
most African societies, men and women were treated as equal and seen as
That's
equal. They
right.
just had different
That's right.
different positions in, but one was not greater or less than the other because we
Exactly.
actually need each other. So
Mm-hmm.
a black man needs a black woman to make black children. There ain't no way around
Exactly.
it. And if
Mm-hmm.
you make black children with force, you will raise and breed vicious black children
Mm-hmm.
because we are created out of love, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that we have to remember, there is a perceived competition between black men and black women, and there should not be.
It's manufactured.
We have to be symbiotic in our
Mm-hmm.
relationships. And in
Mm-hmm.
order to do that, it's those folks of us who know better have to go out and teach better so that we can raise up those who are willing to change and
Mm-hmm.
actually create spaces where we need each other. I love my husband.
Now
My
we're
husband is
talking.
the greatest man on the planet for me.
Mm-hmm.
I love that I love him as much as I do.
Mm-hmm.
And others see that we love each other and they look at that as like relationship goals.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a strong black woman. I'm not negating his strength.
Mm-hmm.
We know he knows I have strengths where he doesn't, and he has strengths where I
Mm-hmm.
don't. And we
Mm-hmm.
lean on each other and perfect each other as a unit
Mm-hmm.
because we are a
Mm-hmm.
unit. And when we see the
Exactly.
community as a unit, where one is strong, the other might be weak. Where one is weak, the other might be strong. We together have to empower each other and be honest in those conversations. And you are
Mm-hmm.
correct. Strong black men don't last long in corporate America unless they
Mm-mm.
are whitewashed because they
Exactly.
cannot be controlled. But if you
Exactly.
ever watched the movie The Spook that sat behind the door,
Uh-huh.
that movie,
Mm-hmm.
that movie that has become the thing that people are not supposed to see,
Right.
you need to go look that up and find it. Because
Okay.
what that man did was he was a chameleon in the white world.
Mm-hmm.
He took that position that they gave him and they called him that good guy.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole time he took what he learned back to the community and taught his brothers and his
Mm-hmm.
sisters.
Mm-hmm.
And they changed and they evolved and they grew.
Mm-hmm.
And we also have to remember places like Tulsa, places like
Mm-hmm.
Rosewood that were
Mm-hmm.
destroyed because they were thriving black towns that individually operated without assistance from anybody else. And
Mm-hmm.
jealous folks was like, how come them black folks over there living good and we over here living on scraps? Because we took the scraps and we made gold. And that
Exactly.
again is the master that of the reinvention that we have as black people. Not just
Mm-hmm.
black women, but black men as well, to take that junk and turn it into a
Mm-hmm.
treasure and make
Absolutely.
that treasure be appealing to those that threw it away.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, that's why we were brought over here in the first place. They want us to think that they just wanted low life people, low level people to work to death. No, they brought us over here because we were experts at soil management and raising, crops in every environment from jungle to desert. And, everybody was eating good largely because of those maternal capabilities, the farming and the storage and all those sorts of things. And, so we were brought over here because they were stripping the soil with their cotton and their tobacco and their sugar. Okay.
Mm.
And in order to maintain their markets in England and Europe, they needed our genius to make that viable. Okay. But
And let's
they,
remember, they wouldn't have
mhm.
needed our genius if they had treated the people who were native to here
Well,
correctly.
the native was falling on his own land. So he wasn't going to be enslaved regardless. He stood
Absolutely
up.
not.
He stood up exactly like what was his name? Thomas Paine. Give me liberty or give me death. Okay, he took the same position,
Absolutely.
and it's because of black women that we didn't go the way of the Native American, because black women chose to endure tremendous amounts of pain over huge lengths of time. And that is what has kept us alive. But survival is different from thriving. And right now, since our survival, our very survival is once again being threatened, the thriving has to be there in order to keep us from constantly waking up in the same position where we're constantly reacting to what's being done to us as opposed to having our own. And like you mentioned, the Rosewoods and the Tulsas and the Allensworths and all these different places where they've done that. That's why I'm just overjoyed about being alive today, in this day and age, because now, because of the technology, we have the ability to build things that they can't burn, they can't bury, and they can't bulldoze. And
The
so,
internet is forever. And once it's
mhm,
on there, they can delete it all they want to. Somebody has a copy somewhere.
precisely. Their own tech, but it's like the Roman Empire. When the Roman Empire fell, one of the things that was instrumental in that happening was that the Romans kept such good records of everything. So
Mm-hmm.
people were able to see, they were able to learn what they did to build those good roads. They were able to learn what processes they used to build that government control in foreign lands and all that sort of thing. Okay. Well, we have that in this situation, in this country right now today. Okay. There's all kinds of records on what was done to us during the period of enslavement, but they're not in the libraries that they're trying to wipe out. Where they are is in people's grandmother's attics.
Absolutely.
And that's one of the reasons they fight reparations so hard. Because if I can go ring somebody's doorbell and say, "Okay, Mrs. DuPont, you owe my family $3 million," and we want to see what's in your trunks in your attic, I become an entirely different sort of threat.
I also think reparations is something. Well, first of all, let's actually shout out what is going on in the world right now, where
Mm-hmm.
the not the WHO, I forget the name of the group.
Part of the UN.
The UN Ghana went
Mm-hmm.
after and said that chattel slavery was a huge human rights error, and
Crime.
therefore, and
Mm-hmm.
therefore, now the only three countries that voted no to this
Uh-huh.
was the ones that were, you know,
Engaged in it.
the ones that benefited the most. And
Exactly.
so now we got a little bit of a leg to stand on. And so
Mm-hmm.
I have a theory about reparations. I think they're trying to wait us out. I think we'll eventually get it, but it's going to be so hard to prove who actually was an actual slave and who
Mm-hmm.
actually came over here because our DNA is so mixed up. It's going to be so hard to prove.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So they're trying to wait for everybody to die off.
Mm-hmm.
Those folks that have the DNA. But let me tell you, there are a lot of people who are still alive that have direct blood results to slavery that are only
Uh-huh.
4 generations away from the
Exactly.
last.
It hasn't been that long.
It was not that long ago.
Mm-hmm.
It was not that long ago. And if we're talking about reparations, we really need to include not just chattel slavery, but the discrimination in Jim Crow as well. So
Mm-hmm.
anybody who was born between 1900 and 1950 also
Mm-hmm.
qualify to be able to
Mm-hmm.
enjoy some of that reparation as well,
Mm-hmm.
if
Mm-hmm.
we break it down to brass tacks. But
Mm-hmm.
they're not going to do that. And I think what would be fair would be to allow Black folks to go to school for free at a state college. They won't do that
Mm-hmm.
either. So, anything that would give us a level up to be equitable, because,
Mm-hmm.
like that word, DEIs, they don't want DEI. They don't want
Can't
anything
have that.
equitable.
Oh
So in order for
no.
it to be equitable to get us a little bit of a step up, because the Rothschilds, the DuPonts, the
Mm-hmm.
all those folks, they've got money so deep, so long, so great, so wide off the backs of
Mm-hmm.
of, of slaves that
Mm-hmm.
there'll be no way that they could repay.
That's exactly where I was going. Because see, unlike you, I don't have any faith whatsoever that we'll ever get reparations, not even a dime. Simply because once you open that door, and we already know how they are with the whole slippery slope theory. Everything's a slippery slope theory, so you can't give an inch because folks will want to take a mile. So they give us a little, we're going to want more. And in the end result, when you talk about fairness and equity, there's just simply absolutely no way they can afford to pay us what they owe. And I think that's what they're really terrified of is they know that that debt is stacked so high, there's no way for them to survive if they even attempt to try to pay that debt.
Well,
Okay.
they already know they're not surviving. That's why they try to get away with abortion. And so, I'm a nerd. So facts have shown that the majority of the abortions over the last 2 years have been teenagers, and they have not been Black.
Okay. Well, that's what they're all, up in arms about is they want more white babies. I mean, they want to try to force 14-year-olds to have babies, whether they want to or not, simply for population reasons. But, all of that, I want to come back around to our subject of today, and that is showing up in uncertain times because you kind of wrapped up that article talking about presence. And
Mm-hmm.
and this is, I don't know if you intended it to or not, but for me, that brought in a kind of a spiritual element to this whole
Mm-hmm.
thing. Because, when we talk about things that should be or could be or logically ought to be, that's on the physical plane. And as we know, what has kept us here and in the position we're in is the spiritual plane. The fact that there's somebody bigger, badder, and better than they are. Okay, that our connection has given us the authority and the ability to transcend and to achieve the impossible. So let's wrap it up by talking about that.
Um, Presence alone, we shouldn't be here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like none of us should be here.
Mm-hmm.
Just by sheer will, grit, and our grandmama's prayers, are we
Mm-hmm.
still sitting here?
Mm-hmm.
And what's amazing about us is that we are. still here. We are still present.
Mm-hmm.
We are still making a mark. We are still contributing. We are still becoming greater and better each day.
Well, we're
And
actually leading the planet. We
well,
tell
we've
the
all
planet what's cool,
we
whether it's fashion, music, athletics,
we've always
culture.
led the planet. We've always
Mm-hmm.
led the planet. We've always led the planet in beauty. And what we have to remember, so back in the slave days, Black women's hair had to be covered because
Yep.
Black women's hair was seen to be supposedly so awful, but
Mm-hmm.
all the men wanted to touch our hair.
That's
So it
right.
couldn't be that bad. So again, we have led the pack on everything, and we are the
Mm-hmm.
authority. And now that the invention of social media and the worldwide
Uh-huh.
web, our greatness is being shared and seen across
Mm-hmm.
the world
It's
instantly.
on display.
It is on display. We used to only be great in magazines. Now we're great
Yep.
in videos and on
Mm-hmm.
pictures and in podcasts and in all the places that
Mm-hmm.
we are. And
Mm-hmm.
so just the fact that we're here, we should be pretty excited about it. Just when we walk in the
Mm-hmm.
room, we elevate the room immediately.
Mm-hmm.
The room becomes cool when we go in there. The table becomes
Absolutely.
cool when we sit. The
Mm-hmm.
the membership becomes great when we join it. We
Mm-hmm.
enhance everything we do. Any place we
Absolutely.
go, we enhance it. And that in
Mm-hmm.
itself, we should be pretty damn proud when we walk in the room. The
Mm-hmm.
presence of just going in there. You've made it cool.
Outstanding. I love it. That's a perfect note to leave it on. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been witness to another fabulous interview episode of the Pivot with Power podcast with your host with the most, Lance T. Walker, and today's inimitable guest, Mischelle Valentine Logan. Mischelle, it has been wonderful to have you again. Looking forward to the next time.
Thank you for having me. I can't wait.
Outstanding. All right, you guys.